My husband told me not to call him during his 15-day business trip, but I found out he was actually traveling with his side chick. As soon as I learned the truth, I canceled his platinum credit card and put our Buckhead mansion up for sale. The next day, I had 66 missed calls from him. He yelled, "Why did you cancel the card? How am I supposed to get back to Atlanta?" I only said one sentence that left him and his mistress speechless. As the evening began, I was arranging the Phalaenopsis orchids on the porch. That's when my husband Kellen appeared, pulling a suitcase toward the door. He was still wearing a tailored suit, but his tie was loose. The smell of expensive cologne, tobacco, and the tiredness of a long day mixed together, covering up the clean smell of the orchids I took such good care of. After 10 years of marriage, I had gotten so used to his smell that I hardly noticed it anymore, just like our marriage. He looked at me, but only for a second. "I'm leaving. This trip is very important. Some foreign partners are here, and they need a land survey for a new resort in the Hamptons. We're starting a big new project." His voice was flat, with no feeling or even tiredness. It was just an announcement like a boring weather report. I nodded and moved closer, pretending to fix his collar. "Why so suddenly? 15 days is a long time." Kellen moved back a little. It was a tiny movement to avoid me, but I saw it clearly. "This project is top secret, Zara. You get it? I need to check things out, and the information can't leak." He took my hand, but his palm wasn't as warm as usual. He warned me, "For security, don't call or text me for the next 15 days. I'll have my phone off so I can focus. I'll call you when the work is done. I'm leaving the house and the garden to you." Smiled. It was the smile I had practiced for 10 years. The smile of a smart, understanding wife. "Of course. Go do what you need to do. I'll be fine here, so have a good trip." The loud sound of the suitcase wheels on the tile floor echoed, followed by the heavy slam of the iron front door. The fancy Buckhead mansion became very cold and quiet. I stood in the middle of the fancy living room, looking at my reflection in the big window. 10 years ago, I, Zara Ellison, was a driven landscape architect with my own brand, Ellison & Come Designs. But Kellen insisted, "I need a solid foundation at home." So I gave it all up and became a full-time homemaker in this mansion. I designed every part of the garden, putting my heart into every flower. I thought I was taking care of our home, but over the years, Kellen had become more and more distant. We had fewer dinners together at home, and his affection or care had dried up. He left early and came home late, always saying it was work. I blamed myself. Did I do something wrong? Or do all marriages fade like this over time? I tried to fix our relationship, but I only met his indifference and sometimes his annoyance. Slowly I got tired too, and only silence was left in our house. This 15-day trip and the rule of no contact didn't make me worried. Instead, it made me feel a cold distance that went deep into my bones. 3 days after Kellen left, the big house felt very empty. I spent most of my time taking care of my orchid garden. It was the only thing I had left. The Phalaenopsis orchids, dancing lilies, and purple dendrobiums I had ordered straight from Miami were in full bloom. As I gently cleaned each leaf, my phone on the table beeped. I thought it was an ad and ignored it. But a second and a third beep came quickly. I sighed, took off my gloves, wiped my hands on my apron and picked up the phone. On the screen were 3 identical bank alerts. My heart sank. They were purchase alerts from Kellen's company Platinum card, the one I gave him for work. My eyes locked on the words, $4,500 payment at Sorrel's Table restaurant. Sorrel's Table. That name was like a needle in my ear. $4,500. Quickly checked the date and time. The purchase happened only 10 minutes ago. With shaking hands, I called the bank's VIP center to make sure. The advisor, after checking, told me firmly, "Yes, Miss Ellison. A payment of $4,500 was made at Sorrel's Table restaurant in Buckhead, Atlanta." Buckhead, Atlanta. The Hamptons. I hung up the phone and my whole body felt cold. The sweet smell of the orchids suddenly made me sick and choked me. I remembered Sorrel's Table restaurant very well. 6 months ago, for our 10th wedding anniversary, I showed Kellen an article about this place. I practically begged him, "Honey, let's have dinner here for our anniversary. They say it's very romantic and has a beautiful city view." At that moment, Kellen, eyes stuck to his computer, brushed me off without even looking up. "Don't be silly, Zara. Look at the price. One meal costs as much as one of my employees makes in a month. It's a place where show-offs go." I tried to explain. "It's only once in 10 years. But he got annoyed. "Don't be wasteful and silly. We can use that money for something better." His words crushed my hopes. Our 10th anniversary ended with a regular dinner at home. I told myself, he's right. He's a practical person. He worries about big business, not silly things. But today my husband, who was supposed to be doing a land survey in the Hamptons, the same man who told me not to contact him, was at Sorrel's Table, paying a $4,500 bill. What client would he be with to spend so much? My hands shook, not from anger, but from a cold feeling that went from my spine to the top of my head. I had lived in complete trust for the last 10 years, or maybe in a perfect lie. I looked at the pure white Phalaenopsis orchid in front of me, with its beautiful, perfect petals. But why did they feel so weak and fake? He lied to me. This single thought was clear, and it cut my heart like broken glass. He had tricked me. After the first shock came a strange calm. It's like when a person is badly hurt. The pain comes later, and only numbness is left. I didn't scream or break things. I just walked into the house and poured myself a glass of ice water. The cold water went down my throat, clearing my mind, and my brain started to work. What should I do? Should I call him right now and scream, "Where are you? What are you doing?" Only to listen to another, more detailed lie. I hadn't wasted the last 10 years trusting him. I couldn't afford to be dumb and waste another second. I needed the truth. I opened my phone's contact list and looked at many familiar names. My mom has heart problems, and she would worry herself sick. I needed someone with a cooler head, someone who could act. My eyes stopped on the name Jada Banks, attorney at law. Jada had been my best friend since we were students at Spelman College. Unlike me, who gave up my career at Ellison and Come By Designs to choose family, Jada was single, a smart, independent lawyer who hated lies. If anyone could help me now, it was only Jada. Called. It rang twice and Jada answered. Her voice was as cheerful as always. "What's up, Zara?" The lady of the house suddenly missed her broke friend. "Or do you have another flower planting project?" I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice from shaking, but it was still choked up. "Jada, are you free now? I need your help." Jada's voice on the other end of the phone immediately became serious. She knew I wasn't joking when I used that tone. "I'm at the office." "What's wrong? Your voice sounds off. What did Kellen, that man, do to you?" "I'm not sure," I said. I tried to put the pieces together in my head. Kellen said he went to the Hamptons for 15 days. He said it was a top-secret project and I shouldn't bother him with calls or texts. "Secret about what?" Jada said, raising her voice. "That stinks. What century is this that it's a secret even from his wife?" I cut her off and got straight to the point. 15 minutes ago, the company card I gave him for work was used to pay $4,500 at Sorrel's Table restaurant in Buckhead. There was silence for a few seconds on the other end of the phone. It was the silence of a lawyer thinking about a case. "Sorrel's Table?" Jada asked. "The French place you wanted to go to for your 10th anniversary last year. And he called it wasteful?" "Yes, that one," I said. My throat burned. "That no-good man. I told you not to trust your husband too much. $4,500 is definitely a problem. What do you want now? Should I send someone right away?" "No," I interrupted her again. At that moment, I didn't need a big scene. "I don't want to send anyone. I need the truth. You're a lawyer. You have your ways. Find out who he's with there. Sorrel's Table is a fancy restaurant. They surely have security cameras or a reservation list. Understood, Jada replied simply. Send me the card info, your account number, and a clear photo of Kellen. Have contacts there. But Zara, are you really okay? Jada's voice was full of concern. I looked at my orchid garden. The white petals were still there, beautiful. But why did they feel so fancy and weak? I don't know, but don't worry, I won't fall apart. Hung up the phone. I knew that from that moment on, my life would never be the same. I don't know how long I sat still on the porch. The sun had set and only an orange line was left in the sky, telling us a long night was coming. Tonight the smell of the orchids was no longer sweet. Made me sick and choked me. I didn't eat dinner. In the big house, only the regular ticking of the grandfather clock in the living room echoed. Each tick was like a hammer hitting my empty chest. I tried to fool myself. Maybe it really is an important business partner. Maybe it's a female boss Kellen has to entertain. Maybe $4,500 is just a deposit for a big contract. I tried to hold on to that weak hope, but it broke when my phone rang. It was close to 10 o'clock at night, and I got a WhatsApp message from Jada. It wasn't a text. It said, "Breathe deep. Sit down in a chair and then open it." My hands shook. I told Jada I wouldn't fall apart, but my body was betraying me. I felt the blood leave my face, and my hands and feet got cold. I clicked on the video file Jada had just sent. It was only 30 seconds long. The video seemed to have been recorded secretly by a customer at another table or taken from a security camera. The angle wasn't clear, but those 30 seconds were enough to end my 10 years of marriage. It was Kellen. He was wearing the same suit I had ironed for him that morning. He had taken off his jacket and looked relaxed. He was sitting in the fancy, classic space of Sorrel's table. And he wasn't alone. Across from him sat a very young woman with long light brown hair, smooth skin, wearing a wine-colored silk dress. I knew this woman. My heart tightened. It was Nia Simmons, the new intern at Kellen's company. I had met her once about 3 months ago when I brought him lunch at the office. At that time, Kellen introduced her casually. "This is Nia. She's an intern in my department." Nia had politely said hello to me. "Hello, Miss Zara. You're the best. With the delicious food you make. It's no wonder boss Kellen praises you." In this 30-second video, Kellen was using a silver fork to carefully pick up a big piece of lobster and put it on Nia's plate. He was smiling with a sweetness and care. His eyes were full of a deep feeling for Nia, a look I hadn't seen in a long time, maybe 5 years. Nia leaned back and laughed loudly. Then she quickly leaned over the table and used her finger to wipe a bit of sauce near Kellen's mouth. It was a clearly intimate move. Kellen didn't pull away. He took her hand, brought it to his lips and kissed it. 30 seconds. The video ended. I dropped the phone on the cold granite floor. There was a dry clack. I had been betrayed. It wasn't a business partner. It wasn't a quick fling of a middle-aged man. It was a deep, secret relationship. He was using my money, the card I gave him, to book a fancy restaurant and spoil a girl half my age. I felt pain in my chest. But strangely I couldn't cry. The tears had dried up long ago. I felt sickness rising in my throat. I had given up my great career at Ellison and Come By Designs. I gave up my youth to be the solid foundation for this liar. I took care of my own garden, but now I found there was a poisonous snake in it. The phone was still lying on the cold floor, the screen now off. But the 30-second video played over and over in my head, like a slow-motion movie I couldn't turn off. Kellen holding Nia's hand, the loving smile, the kiss on the back of her hand. Each scene was like a knife cutting my already hard heart. I slid down the cold wall to the floor. This mansion, this garden, for the last 10 years, I thought it was my heaven and the result of my sacrifice. It turned out to be just a gilded cage. And I was a bird who had locked herself in while the owner went out to find another, younger bird. The phone rang. This time the caller ID showed Jada Banks, attorney at law. I took a deep breath, trying to control the shaking running through my body. I picked up the phone and cleared my throat. I got it. Did you watch it? Jada's voice was urgent and full of anger. I didn't answer. My throat was tight. No good man. Kellen. That no good man. Jada started cursing on the other end of the phone. She could never stay calm when she saw her friend hurting. That girl is Nia, the intern from his department. Her face looked familiar. What are you going to do now? Are you going home and tearing the place apart? Jada, I interrupted her. My voice had no feeling, no tears. Hey! Jada stopped, surprised, probably by the very calm tone of my voice. Are you at the office now? Yeah, I'm here. I was waiting for your call. You are my lawyer, right? Of course I am. What are you saying? I'm your friend. And, I took a deep breath. The cold began to spread from my heart all through my spine. I don't need you to be my friend. I need you to be my lawyer. You're an attorney, right? You need to be colder than I am. There was silence on the other end of the phone. I knew Jada understood. She switched from being a furious friend to being a lawyer taking a case. Talk. I'm listening. Jada's voice had completely changed. It was sharp and professional. First thing, I said, and got up and walked to the mahogany desk where the house papers, savings books, and deposits were kept. Prepare the steps to immediately freeze all of our joint accounts. All of them. Freeze? Jada asked. Are you sure? If you freeze them, he'll find out right away and call you. He will find out, I replied firmly. But it will be too late for him to do anything. This mansion is in both our names. The land my parents gave me when we got married also became joint property after the wedding. I can't let that man use the assets. I noticed the change in the way I talked about him. My beloved husband, Kellen, had died in that 30-second video. What was left was just a stranger named Kellen Thorne. Understood, Jada replied. But to freeze joint accounts, we need a good reason. You need to file for divorce for the court to accept the case, which would give us the legal reason to ask for an emergency freeze. No, I said firmly. Now is not the time for divorce. If I divorce now, I'll give him and that woman freedom. I need another reason. I don't want to go to court yet. I looked around the well-decorated room. Jada, if I report to the bank as the main cardholder that I think my husband is doing fraud or using our property for illegal things, would that be reason enough for the bank to temporarily freeze the accounts? Jada was quiet for a few seconds, thinking. Legally, it's enough. The bank has the right to temporarily stop things to protect a client's assets, especially since you are a VIP client. But it will cause a scandal. I need a scandal, I said. I want him to know that I'm not the fool he controlled for the last 10 years. I hung up the phone with Jada. I didn't let myself have a second of regret or fear. If pain doesn't kill you, it turns you into steel. And at that moment, I felt my heart had become harder than stone. 10 years. I was an obedient wife. For 10 years I stepped back. And this was the price I had to pay. I immediately looked up the phone number for Mr. Sterling, the Director of Special Customer Services at the Executive Trust. He had been the person managing my accounts for the last 5 years, always polite with a kind voice, calling me for holidays or my birthday to invite me to investment programs or just sending me flowers. Now was the time those special services were needed. It was almost 11 o'clock at night, but the phone rang only 3 times and was answered right away on the other end. Mr. Sterling's voice was still kind. Miss Zara, good evening. You're calling me at this hour. Is there an emergency? I interrupted him. My voice was surprisingly calm, but allowed no interruptions. Mr. Sterling, I'm calling for an emergency. I need you to handle 2 things immediately. First, immediately cancel the extra credit card. The card number is... I clearly read the numbers of Kellen's platinum card. The numbers I had memorized from paying his bills every month. Cancel it right now. Mr. Sterling seemed shocked. Ma'am, this is a maximum limit VIP card and Mr. Kellen is on a business trip. Could he have an emergency? I know, I cut him off. And I request the cancellation. I am the main card holder. Have the right. Cancel it right now. Yes, understood. I will take steps to block the card immediately. What is the second matter? His voice was already tense. The second matter is... I took a deep breath. I am Zara Ellison, co-owner of the joint accounts. I clearly gave him the numbers of the 3 joint accounts, including the checking account, the stock account, and the $60,000 joint deposit account. I request the bank apply an emergency measure to temporarily freeze all transactions on these accounts. This time Mr. Sterling was quiet for longer. I could hear him breathing in. Miss Zara, could you tell me the reason? This matter is very complicated in terms of steps, as Mr. Kellen is also a co-owner. The reason is, I emphasized every word. I, the main owner of most of the assets, have good reason to think that my husband, Mr. Kellen Thorne, is using the joint assets for illegal things and doing fraud. And he is currently showing signs of taking the assets. Fraud. Illegal. Taking assets. I said these words clearly and simply. They were the legal terms Jada told me to use to force the bank to act in an emergency. The director on the other end was really panicked. Ma'am, calm down. This matter is very serious. If you say so, according to client protection rules, I will immediately tell the system to temporarily block all online and in-person transactions. Please come to the nearest branch tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning to sign the papers. Fine. I will be there tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning, I replied simply. I don't want a single dollar taken from those accounts from this moment on. Do you understand? Yes, understood. I will process it immediately. Hung up the phone. The room was instantly quiet. I looked at my hand, which was still gripping the phone tightly. It wasn't shaking. For 10 years I used these 2 hands to cook, wash clothes, plant flowers, and massage him when he said he was tired. Now, with these 2 hands I was freezing everything that was his. I had cut his money lifeline. I had cut off his retreat. The $4,500 appetizer at Sorrel's table was really expensive. Now it was time for me to serve the main course. I didn't know how Kellen would react when his platinum card was rejected and he knew he couldn't get into any account, but I knew he would call me soon and I was ready. I couldn't sleep that night. I sat in the armchair on the porch looking at the orchid garden covered in darkness. My mind was just as dark. Every time I closed my eyes, the 30-second video appeared with cruel clarity. Kellen's kiss, Nia's laugh, and the $4,500 bill were a play making fun of the 10 years of my youth I had buried in this mansion. At 7:55 in the morning, I arrived at the door of Jada Banks's law office. My eyes were swollen from the sleepless night, and my face without makeup was pale. I knew how awful I looked. Jada came out of the meeting room. She was wearing a tailored black suit, and her hair was pulled back into a high ponytail, which made her look sharp and in charge. Her usual cheerful eyes were gone, replaced by hidden anger. She pushed a mug of hot coffee toward me without a word. "Drink it. You look like a dying ghost." I shook my head. My throat was dry. "I can't." "Did you finish everything?" Jada sat across from me, crossing her arms. "Finished. At 8 o'clock I sent your confirmation papers to the bank director. Everything is frozen. His platinum card is now officially a useless piece of plastic." For a moment, a wave of relief washed over me, but it didn't fill the emptiness inside. "Thank you." Jada looked at me with a deep gaze. "Zara, now answer me calmly. I ask you as your lawyer, what do you want? Just to give him a warning and let out your anger? Or do you want a divorce?" Divorce. Why did those 2 words sound so strange and painful? For 10 years, I gave up everything to be that man's wife, putting my ambition at Ellison and Come By Designs aside. And now divorce. I truly don't know. When I fell silent, Jada sighed and stood up, pacing the room. "Look at me. If you only want to give him a warning, honestly, Kellen will come back. He'll get on his knees, beg for forgiveness, and swear that heaven and earth will fall before he strays again. And then what? And then he'll go back to his old ways. But next time he'll be more secretive, more sneaky. You could live your whole life in doubt." I looked at Jada. The scene of the kiss at the restaurant appeared again. No, I can't take it anymore. Then it's divorce. Jada said it like a fact, not a question. If you decide to divorce, you have to be ready to fight. Kellen is no fool. He and his family won't let you go easily with anything. They see you as a soft touch. I want a divorce. My voice suddenly became clear. But before I divorce, I want to know exactly what I had for the last 10 years and what he secretly took from me. Jada smiled. It was a cold, calculating smile. Good. This is the Zara Ellison I know. She pulled up a chair and took out a folder. I did a first look. The biggest asset is the Buckhead mansion. It's in both your names. He nodded. The house was like my parents' wedding gift. They had put up most of the money. I froze the joint savings accounts and stock accounts, Jada continued. The problem is he surely has personal accounts. Do you know his exact salary? I hesitated. He told me the company kept his salary and bonuses as outside funds. Every month he only gave me $3,000 for household expenses, home management, and garden care. Jada scoffed. It was a laugh of disgust. $3,000. You believe that, Zara? He's a high-level director in charge of multi-million-dollar projects, and his salary is only $3,000. You've been fooled by him for 10 years. I lowered my head. I realized he hadn't just betrayed me emotionally, but he had also shamelessly tricked me with money. It's okay. We'll talk about that later. Jada patted me on the shoulder. Now, what are you going to do with the biggest asset, the mansion? I looked out the window of Jada's office at the busy stream of people below. That house, that garden was the passion of my 10 years. But now it was nothing more than a fancy cage full of lies. Sell it. My voice was dry. Put it at market price immediately, but we have to sell it fast before he reacts and can't take more assets. Jada looked at me. The surprise turned into approval. Good. Very determined. I'll call a trusted real estate agent right away. Now go home, eat something and get some sleep. It looks like a storm is coming. The storm Jada mentioned didn't wait. It arrived that very night, not the next day. I was sitting dazed on the steps next to the koi pond, watching the colorful fish swim. They lived in their little world, fed every day, and probably would never know what betrayal was. My phone placed on the stone table began to vibrate. The two words, beloved husband, appeared on the screen. A name I loved 10 years ago, but now it felt like a deep joke. I didn't answer the call. I simply sat and watched as the phone rang, cut off, and rang again as if it were in a fit of anger. I ignored it and counted. 1 call, 2 calls, 10 calls. My phone rang again when I was discussing the quick sale of the mansion with Curtis, the real estate agent Jada had suggested to me. Curtis, a polite middle-aged man, felt awkward. Miss Zara, you're not answering your phone. It seems urgent. I forced a smile. Yes, it's probably another real estate ad. I block these types of numbers. I put the phone on silent and we continued talking about prices and steps. But in my mind, I knew the anger on the other end of the phone was growing. After Curtis left, the house was very quiet again. I turned on my phone to check. 66 missed calls. 66. What a beautiful number. I laughed, but I felt like crying. 66 missed calls. It wasn't because he missed me. It wasn't because he was worried about me. It was because he could no longer spend money. My fingers trembled as I checked the many missed call alerts. He had been calling me like crazy for 2 hours. He had probably tried to take his mistress shopping after their fancy $4,500 meal or pay for a 5-star hotel stay. But he had failed. Right then, a new notification appeared. You have one new voicemail message. My heart skipped a beat. What had to come came. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my hands from shaking, and brought the phone to my ear. I had to listen. I had to know his reaction. After a beep, Kellen's voice screamed. It was no longer the sweet whisper or the calm of a high-level director. It was the howl of a hurt animal, a hungry animal. Zara Ellison, you crazy woman. Are you insane or not? How dare you cancel my card without my permission? Don't you know I'm entertaining an important client right now? Does it amuse you so much to make me look bad like this? Closed my eyes. Entertaining an important client. Even now he was lying. The same old act. What are you playing at? Turn the card back on and put money in my accounts. Quick, stop making a fool of yourself. Answer the phone. Answer it now. A dry click and the voicemail ended. Only a long beep remained, followed by the chilling silence of the room. I listened to the voicemail again once, twice, and 3 times. In that confused sound, I tried to find a trace of regret or concern, but there was nothing, only anger. He wasn't angry because I found out he was unfaithful. He was angry because I cut off his money. He was angry because I, the homemaker wife he had always looked down on, dared to make him look bad. What was I, in his eyes, a fancy housekeeper or an ATM whose code he didn't know? The disgust I felt in that voice hurt me more than the 30-second video. My hands, which trembled when listening to the voicemail, were now completely still. I saved the recording without deleting it. I would need it later. Instead of pressing the redial button in a panic, I went to the WhatsApp app. I changed my profile picture. The photo of the 2 of us smiling happily on our 5th anniversary was deleted. In its place, I put a photo of myself alone next to a dendrobium orchid in full bloom. I was smiling in the picture. Then I didn't send a text message. Called him directly. He answered almost instantly on the other end of the phone, as if he had been glued to the phone, waiting for my call. Zara, you. He tried to scream again, but before he could finish I spoke. Yes. My voice was clear, calm, and cold. My calmness seemed to surprise him. You. What are you playing at? He stammered, and his anger seemed to falter. What are you doing? Turn the accounts back on. I'm really in trouble now. I'm not playing with you either, I replied. I stood up and walked out onto the porch, looking at the garden to which I had given all my passion. I'm not playing, Mr. Kellen. I'm doing adult work that I should have done a long time ago. What is it? He was completely confused. This wasn't the scene he expected. He expected me to cry, scream with jealousy, and cause a scene, not this calm tone as if talking to a stranger. I only have one question, I continued. How is it that your ultra-secret land survey in the Hamptons flew all the way to Buckhead, Atlanta? There was silence on the other end of the phone. A chilling silence. I could hear his heavy breathing through the phone. He was trying to put together the next lie. What nonsense are you saying? His voice suddenly became lower. He wasn't yelling anymore. He was checking. The panic was clear. Who told you that nonsense? I said, drawing out my voice with sarcasm. Perhaps your associate told me. The brown-haired associate in a red dress sitting at Sorrel's table. Isn't it a little fancy to entertain with a $4,500 meal? Were you spying on me? His voice immediately became threatening. The anger of being caught replaced the confusion. I don't care, I replied in a frosty voice. Your job is to entertain. Well, and I forgot to tell you one thing. What thing? He asked carefully. The mansion in Buckhead, I said, and I smiled. I knew he couldn't see me, but I felt a strange satisfaction. I put it up for sale. The real estate agent called me this morning and said there are clients offering a good price. We'll probably sign the contract this weekend. What? This time he really screamed. A high-pitched shriek filled with extreme panic and anger. Are you crazy, Zara Ellison? How dare you? That's my house. It's our house. You have no right to do that when I get back to Atlanta. When you get back to Atlanta, you also had no right to book a restaurant to spend our money on your mistress. I raised my voice. I no longer stayed calm. I froze the accounts, cancelled the platinum card, and the house will be sold soon. I hope your survey was nice. Now, see how you get back to Atlanta. I didn't wait for him to continue ranting. I pressed the hang-up button with determination. I knew that Kellen Cornered would call his ally, and his biggest ally was none other than his mother, Delilah Thorne, or Mama Delilah, as everyone called her. I was her daughter-in-law for 10 years. I understood this family very well. They had a strange sense of togetherness, especially when it came to protecting the interests of their precious golden boy. An hour after my tense phone call with Kellen, my phone rang again. This time the screen showed Mother. At one point I saved this name with all the respect of a new daughter-in-law. Now seeing it only gave me endless tiredness. I took a deep breath, trying to sound as normal as possible, and answered, "Yes, Mother." Immediately, without a greeting, miserable crying poured into my ear through the phone. It sounded like the sad song of a drama my mother-in-law loved to watch. "Oh my God, Zara. Zara, how could you do this to your husband? Will you only be satisfied when that child dies in the street?" I remained silent, letting her cry. This was an act I had seen for 10 years. Every time there was a small problem in our marriage, she used tears to fix it. And the result was always that I had to say sorry, even if it wasn't my fault. Since I didn't react, her crying stopped as quickly as turning off a radio. She switched to a sharp tone. "Are you going to keep playing dumb? Kellen just called me and he was crying. He said you froze his card and his accounts. What are you doing? Who do you think that child is suffering for? It's for this house. It's for you. How could you be such an unreasonable and thoughtless woman?" Unreasonable. I repeated those two words. They were like a dull knife sticking in my ear. I laughed a cold laugh. "Mother, am I the unreasonable one? Or is Mr. Kellen the unreasonable one? He told me he went to the Hamptons to check things out, but he used my hard-earned $4,500 to dine at a fancy restaurant in Buckhead with another woman. In your eyes, he's suffering for me." There was a chilling silence on the other end of the phone. I knew Kellen would never have told his mother these costly details, but I underestimated her. Mama Delilah was an experienced actress, and after a few seconds of surprise, she immediately changed the script. The crying returned, this time more miserable. "Oh baby, I know you're losing, but honey, you have to understand men who can't fall into temptation. Maybe he made a temporary slip. If you cause a scandal like this, people will laugh at our family. You have to close the door and fix it privately, sweetie. Patience is a woman's good quality. If you sell the house, where will the children grow up later? Think about it again." Slip. Felt like crying. But I actually laughed. "Mother, where is there a $4,500 slip? I gave up my career at Ellison and Come By Designs to serve at home, and he's using my money to entertain a young woman half my age." You. She stopped crying again and became nasty. "What are you saying so disrespectfully? How dare you talk to your mother-in-law like that?" "I'm not talking disrespectfully," I cut her off. My voice was now colder than ice. "I'm just telling the truth. I can no longer be the cash cow that the whole family makes fun of. I'm stopping this family's bleeding before your son uses my hard-earned money for another woman. I'm tired. I'm going to hang up." "How dare you?" she screamed. "If you don't turn the accounts back on now, don't blame me for becoming a wicked woman. I'm coming to your house right now." I didn't give her a chance to continue threatening. I hung up the phone with determination. I slumped onto the cold floor. Unfaithfulness. That's how all men are. Turned out they all knew. They knew and defended him. They took my sacrifice for granted and thought his betrayal was a small mistake. This whole family was rotten to the core. I no longer had any doubt. After the call with Mama Delilah, I sat dazed on the cold floor for hours. This whole family wasn't just defensive. They were helpers. Together they put on a play, and I was the only dumb character who believed it was real. The pain of emotional betrayal had now turned into anger over the betrayal of closeness and trust. For 10 years as a daughter-in-law, I considered Mama Delilah as my own mother. But what I got was a knife in the back. I didn't cry anymore. Maybe my tears dried up last night. Or maybe the anger froze them. I only felt endless disgust. The next morning I woke up with swollen eyes. I tried to swallow some grits, but my throat was dry. Mama Delilah's call last night was like a poison. It killed my last affection, my last dream about the family I tried to hold on to. As I sat without a soul in my orchid garden, my phone chimed. It was a WhatsApp message from an unknown number. I didn't want to open it, but I felt a feeling something bad would happen. Click. The WhatsApp account name was Baby Nia. The profile picture was a selfie of a young woman pouting, and the first message without a greeting was just a photo. A photo taken on a 5-star yacht. Behind her was the blue sea and the clear sky. Nia, Kellen's mistress, was wearing a red bikini, showing off her youth and energy. She was smiling with the smile of a winner. But what left me frozen was the clear image of Kellen reflected in her designer sunglasses. He was shirtless, holding a glass of wine, taking the photo. That man, my husband, the same one who yelled at me yesterday that he was made to look bad because he had no money. The same one his mother cried about, saying he was suffering far away. Turned out they still had cash. They planned this trip carefully. They were enjoying and celebrating their win with my hard-earned money. Pling. Another message arrived, still from her. Ms. Zara. Boss Kellen said, "You are a wise woman." He said, "Now that you're older, you should know when to let go if you want to keep your last bit of respect." I looked at the sentence. Older respect. She was trying to make me angry. She wanted me to go crazy, to cause a scene so she could have a reason to play the role of the innocent victim bothered by the old wife. I looked at the photo for 10 seconds. There was no anger or jealousy, just a disgust like seeing a triumphant fly sitting on a plate of cold food. I didn't reply. I didn't curse. I did 2 things in silence. First, I saved the photo and her message. I sent them to a separate email folder titled Evidence. Second, I deleted the conversation and blocked her phone number. This childish attempt to make me angry didn't deserve my attention. My fight wasn't a response on social media. My fight was a legal battle, a battle for the assets. I didn't need the respect she offered me. I needed to get back everything that was mine. My fight was the asset. And the biggest asset was this mansion. The place where I was standing was the product of my 10 years of passion and my parents' wedding gift that cost almost their entire fortune. I couldn't let it fall into their hands. I called Curtis, the real estate agent Jada had suggested to me, again. My voice was calm and clear. "Mr. Curtis, I thought about it. I decided to sell urgently. Can you speed up the process to sell it quickly, even if we have to lower the market price a little?" Curtis seemed surprised by my determination, but he quickly grasped the situation. "Miss Zara, don't worry. Your house is a rare gem. It's well loved, and you, the landscape architect, designed the garden personally. The clients who saw the photos and 3D videos I took are all captivated." I smiled sadly. Captivated. I was the person who loved this house the most. "Mr. Curtis, this orchid garden is the soul of the house. Tell the clients if they really want to buy the house, please keep it. It has to stay." "Rest easy," Curtis replied. "I will find you a worthy new owner." I thought a quick sale would take weeks, even months. But I was wrong. The power of money and the appeal of this house were much greater than I thought. Just 2 days later, Curtis called me again. He sounded very happy, as if he had won the lottery. "Miss Zara, I have good news. Very good news. We have a client." "It's not just a client." Curtis almost screamed into the phone. "It's a serious buyer. They are an African-American family who just moved back to Atlanta, and they said they were speechless when they saw the photos and 3D videos I sent. They said the house has very good energy, and the orchid garden you designed is very beautiful. They said it's also very compatible with the lady's horoscope." I listened in silence. Curtis continued excitedly. "They don't want to come and see the house multiple times. They said they trust your design and want to put down the earnest money deposit immediately. They didn't haggle a single penny off the asking price. They only have one request." "What request?" I was anxious. "They said they want to buy your entire orchid garden." Curtis hesitated. "They said the house would lose its soul without that garden. They are willing to pay an additional $30,000. $30,000 for all your precious orchids and the care costs. They asked you not to take anything and to leave it as it is." $30,000. I stood there stunned. My 10 years of youth, the 10 years I gave up Ellison and Come By Designs, the 10 years of watering, fertilizing, and pruning were valued at $30,000. It was ridiculous. But at the same time I felt recognized. At least someone recognized the value of my silent sacrifice, even if they didn't know the story behind it. Okay, my voice was choked. Tell them. Except, I will leave everything. Excellent, Curtis rejoiced. So, can we schedule the earnest money contract signing for this weekend? They want to pay 90% in cash all at once. I hung up the phone and looked at the garden. For 10 years, it was my joy and my pride and the gilded cage that trapped me. Now it was the way that freed me. Goodbye, my private Ellison and Designs. Thank you for giving me my first $30,000 to start a new life. The news that I froze the accounts and put the mansion up for sale spread amazingly faster than the wind. I assumed Kellen and his mother, in their anger, must have called everyone they knew to speak badly about me, pressuring me to look like the cruel, insensitive wife, and the good people began to appear. The first call was from Chantel, Kellen's cousin. I always respected her for her kind and gentle tone of voice. Zara, her voice on the other end, was full of awkwardness. Your cousin heard your story. Kellen was wrong. He was very wrong. I gave him a severe scolding. But Zara, she hesitated. I remained silent and waited. You're a woman. You have to understand. Men sometimes can't avoid temptation when they're away. He made a mistake. If you cause a scandal like this, people will laugh at our family. Close the door and fix it privately. Patience is more important than a husband for a woman. If you sell the house, where will the children grow up later? Think about it again. Hung up the phone. I didn't want to hear anything else. Patience. I was patient for 10 years. I was patient to the point of losing my career and my youth. And now I was supposed to be patient so he could give my money to his mistress. The second call was from Jamal, Kellen's best friend. This time it was the tone of an understanding man. Zara, I gave that no-good Kellen a piece of my mind. But you're his wife. You have to understand his temperament. If you cut off all his money, how is he supposed to live and do business? He's trapped overseas, and if he does something without thinking, it's not good for you if he breaks down. You have to give him an out. An out. I felt like crying, but I laughed. Who gave me an out when I gave up Ellison and Come By Designs to be a homemaker? Who gave me an out when he hugged a young mistress at Sorrel's table? They left me an out when his whole family defended him and treated me like a fool. I didn't respond to Jamal. I hung up again, and then came an avalanche of persuasive messages from college friends and the lady next door who was worried because she hadn't seen me happy lately. Everyone advised me to calm down, to think about it again, to forgive. I was fed up. I was fed up with this fake advice. They didn't live my life. They weren't in this house. They don't know what I went through for the last 10 years. They were just outside judging. I turned off my phone. I was too tired to talk to anyone else. I wanted to be alone. I walked into my study, a room I barely entered for the last 10 years. There was a thin layer of dust on the bookshelf, and there were my books on landscape architecture, bonsai art, and garden energy. And on the wall hung the first 3D design plan from Ellison and Come By Designs, which I finished after working all night. It was once my pride and ambition. I sat down and turned on the computer. It had been too long since I touched the design software. My hands trembled a little, but my brain seemed to wake up. I opened a new file and began to draw. I drew a rooftop garden on a skyscraper full of sun with hanging orchids and a small koi pond. I was drawing my new life. Once finished, I opened WhatsApp without thinking. I published only one photo, the screenshot of the 3D design I had just finished, and wrote a single status. First sketch for a new life. Relaunching Ellison and Come By Designs. I turned my phone back on. There were no text messages or calls. For the first time in 24 hours, my phone was silent. The good people had shut up. They no longer advised me to forgive. They knew I wasn't playing. I wasn't just leaving Kellen. I was rebuilding my own empire. My WhatsApp posts successfully silenced the persuasion of my friends and relatives. But it also became the spark that lit the dying powder keg of Kellen Thorne. He had now completely become that man, a stranger, an enemy in my mind. He had failed to use his mother to pressure me. He had failed to persuade me through his friends. Now he decided to face me himself. He was surely still trapped overseas without a dime in his pocket. The anger of being cut off financially, combined with the shock that I dared to publicly sell the house and restart my career, turned him into an animal. The first message arrived from an unknown WhatsApp account. The name Falcon meant nothing to me, but I was sure it was him. I had already blocked his real WhatsApp account. Zara Ellison, you really are something. How dare you put my house up for sale? How dare you announce your new life? Who do you think you are to use that old Ellison and Come By Designs name again? I read the message. Still doing anger. Still doing arrogance. He still thought I was the weak kitten from 10 years ago. He still thought I would be afraid of him. I didn't respond. I did one thing. I took a screenshot and sent it to Jada. Additional evidence. Content of the threat saved. A few hours later, since I didn't respond, a second message arrived. This time, the language was more rude and threatening. You're going to play dumb that you can sell the house without my signature. Don't even dream about it. When I get back to Atlanta, I won't forgive you. How dare you touch my assets? How dare you touch my mother? You'll see. I'll make you get on your knees and beg for my forgiveness. I read the message, but my heart didn't move. I won't forgive you. I haven't been peaceful in the last 10 years. I lived in a false peace, bought at the cost of my career and my pride. Now I prefer to be myself than a false peace. I took a screenshot again and sent it to Jada. Evidence of threat. A day passed and I didn't respond. His anger couldn't solve his hunger or turn into a plane ticket. He began to be afraid. A man used to luxury and being served. Now trapped in an unknown place without money. Anger couldn't beat desperation. And around midnight the third message arrived. This time it wasn't from a fake account, but from an unknown phone number. He had probably borrowed it from someone. The tone had changed completely. Zara, baby. Those two words made me sick. The man who was threatening and growling moments ago now tried to put on a pitiful face. Zara, I was wrong. That girl misled me. I fell into her trap. Believe me. As I read, I only laughed. Even now, he was still blaming someone else. He still thought I was a fool who would easily fall for a few sweet words. The next message arrived immediately, as if he was afraid I wouldn't read it. Zara, I really have no money. I'm trapped here. I'm so hungry, honey. Don't you have even a little affection left for me? And then came the final blow I was sure of. It's 10 years. 10 years of marriage. How can you do this? 10 years. He dared to mention 10 years. The 10 years I buried my youth in the kitchen. The 10 years I gave up my ambition. The 10 years I worked like a slave for his family. He was trying to trade those 10 years for a plane ticket and forgiveness for his $4,500 meal with his mistress at a restaurant. Zara, unlock the account so I can come back. Just give me money for a plane ticket. Let's come back and talk. I'll fix everything. I'll kick that girl out. I'll get on my knees and beg for your forgiveness. Zara. I looked at the phone screen. My heart was coldly hardened. Affection. The word sounded very cheap coming from his mouth. I took a screenshot again and sent it to Jada. This time I titled it, Additional Evidence, Falsehood and Pleading. I turned off my phone and threw it on the velvet sofa. The room was so silent I could hear the beats of my own heart. Heavy, tired beat. Kellen's false plea didn't move me. It filled me with disgust. 10 years. He dared to mention the affection of 10 years. Yes, 10 years. I had to find out how he valued those 10 years. The WhatsApp post about Ellison and Come By Designs was a momentary impulse of anger, but now it reminded me who I was. I wasn't just a crying homemaker. I was an architect once, someone who worked with numbers and logic. Now it was time to use that logic to appraise this marriage. I walked into Kellen's study, a room I barely set foot in for 10 years. He always said it was his private space that I shouldn't touch. The smell of tobacco and old paper stung my nose. I turned on the light. Everything was artificially tidy. I opened the drawer of the mahogany desk where he kept important papers. Of course it was locked, but I was his wife for 10 years. I knew where he kept the spare key. Underneath the money plant in the corner of the room. The arrogance of a man who thought he was smart and thought his homemaker wife would never find it. Open the drawer. The papers were neatly arranged in folders. Contracts, insurance, and bank statements from many accounts whose existence I didn't even know. He told me that $3,000 a month was all the family expenses and that it was a sacrifice for me. It turned out it was just the tip of the iceberg. I sat on the floor and spread everything out. My eyes fixed on the numbers. My already cold heart now felt like someone was squeezing it. Outside expenses with 9 digits, cash withdrawals, and entertainment expenses that happened weekly. And here was his official salary account. The actual number was 5 times the number he told me. 5 times. I laughed, but I felt like crying. I lived in a gigantic trick. I wasn't his wife. I was a fancy housekeeper who was paid $3,000 a month to take care of this mansion and this garden. While he was building another home with our money. The money I saved by giving up Ellison and Come By Designs. The $4,500 meal at Sorrel's table wasn't a mistake. It was a habit, and it was just one of the countless entertainments I had no knowledge of. I was so foolish to fall for the solid foundation at home. I trusted the promise of, "You stay home and I'll take care of everything in the world." It turned out he really was taking care of everything in his world, a world without me. I sat on the pile of papers until the first light of the sun shone through the crack in the door. The coffee had long since grown cold. I felt disgusted, but I couldn't stop. I had to know everything, and my eyes stopped on a transfer record, a repeating transfer record. It wasn't as big as the other outside expenses, only $2,500, but it was as regular as a clock. My eyes, already dry from the sleepless night, felt stung by the letters. Internal transfer beneficiary Ms. Odessa Jones. Amount $2,500. Exactly the same amount he gave me every month to take care of this mansion, the bills, the maid's expenses, and the garden care. He was transferring the exact same amount to another woman named Ms. Odessa Jones. The instinct of a newly betrayed woman whispered to me that this wasn't a simple issue. With trembling hands, I moved the mouse and checked the transaction history. June 15th, May 15th, April 15th. I scrolled back and my heart began to pound wildly. This wasn't a recent expense. Had been continuous. Kept scrolling. Kept scrolling. My mind grew colder and colder. 2 years. Oh my God. For 2 years without fail. Exactly $2,500 transferred on the 15th of every month. I quickly pulled out the calculator and typed $2,500 multiplied by 24 months. $72,000. $72,000. Who was I? Who was Ms. Odessa Jones? I rummaged through my memories. Ms. Odessa Jones, a completely unknown name. Not my relative, much less Kellen's. I was sure no one transfers $2,500 to a friend every month for 2 years. A chill ran down my spine. This wasn't a mistake, as Mama Delilah said. This wasn't unfaithfulness. This was a plan, a systematic long-term plan. He wasn't just having an affair. He was maintaining another woman. He was investing our money, the hard-earned money I saved by giving up Ellison and Come By Designs, in another woman. This betrayal was much crueler than the 30-second video. The kiss at Sorrel's table could be lust. But $72,000 transferred over 2 years was calculation, intentional trickery, and a total disregard for me. Who did they think I was? An idiot. An ATM that was a burden to her husband at home. I didn't cry. I couldn't cry anymore. I only felt anger, a cold anger that surged from the depths of my heart. This anger was enough to burn down these 10 years of false marriage. I didn't call Kellen. I didn't send insulting text messages. I did one thing. I took a screenshot of all the transaction records to Ms. Odessa Jones from the first month to the last. I captured the total number, $72,000. I sent everything to Jada with a single line of message. Jada, find out what kind of monster Ms. Odessa Jones is and what that man maintained with my $72,000 for the last 2 years. I sent the message. It was 6 o'clock in the morning. I knew Jada was an early riser who exercised, even if she worked all night. I didn't expect an immediate answer. I had to shower. My body smelled of hatred and cold sweat from the sleepless night. I stood under the shower. The hot water poured over my body, but I didn't feel warm. It was cold. Cold to the bone. $72,000. The number kept swirling in my head. He took it from me. He took $72,000 from us. For 10 years living at home, I was careful with money. I refused to buy designer bags. I refused luxury trips because he said we had to save for the future. It turned out the future he mentioned was his future with another woman. As soon as I came out of the bathroom with a towel around my hair, my phone rang loudly. It was a call from Jada. Her voice on the other end wasn't that of a lawyer, but of a friend so furious she was losing control. Are you sitting or standing right now? Jada's voice was trembling. Standing. Tell me, do you have the results? I replied calmly, holding back my wildly beating heart. Sit down, Jada almost yelled through the phone. Sit down right now. Ms. Odessa Jones. Jada took a deep breath as if trying to hold back a bad word. 60 years old from the outskirts of Atlanta. No stable job. 60 years old. I felt more confused. Kellen would never do that. Who is she? My voice cracked. Jada was silent for a few seconds and then said every word clearly as if she feared I wouldn't hear her. Zara, she is Nia's mother. Nia Simmons' mother. Nia's mother. My phone fell, landing silently on the wool rug, but something exploded in my ears. The mother of Nia. The mother of the 20-year-old intern. The mother of the woman in the 30-second video. $72,000. $2,500 a month to the mistress's mother. I could no longer feel what my emotions were. It wasn't pain. It was disgust. A nauseating disgust. He wasn't just having an affair. He wasn't just making a mistake. He was being a son to his mistress's mother with my money. With my money. Picked up the phone. Jada was still yelling on the other end. Do you understand what I'm saying? That no-good man, that son of a, was maintaining not only his mistress but the whole family. Do you understand? $2,500 a month. That old woman was living like a queen in the county. He was using your hard-earned money, the money you sacrificed from Ellison and Come By Designs to support another family. Zara, are you listening to me? I'm listening. My voice was strangely calm. I'm listening and I understand everything. What do you understand? Jada stopped, surprised by my calmness. I understand. I stood up and walked to the closet. He hasn't been my husband for a long time. He's been a thief and a con artist. When the truth finally comes out, no matter how cruel, people no longer feel pain. Only anger and a single goal remain. Jada, I cut her off. Prepare the divorce papers. But I don't just want a divorce. I don't just want half the assets. I want it all. I'll make him pay for these 10 years of youth. Principal plus interest. I arrived at Jada's office at 9 o'clock in the morning. I wasn't the soulless, swollen-eyed woman of a few days ago. I wore the white suit I wore to defend the first Ellison and Come By Designs project. My hair was tied back and my makeup was carefully applied. I was here not as a betrayed wife, but as a business partner coming to discuss an important deal. Jada looked at me and her gaze shifted from surprise to respect. You really are incredible. I was worried you would lock yourself in the house to cry or do something foolish. I smiled coldly. Cry, Jada. Tears can't recover $72,000. Good. Jada hit the desk with a pen. Then let's get to work. With this $72,000 evidence, we can not only file for divorce, but also for taking of marital assets and fraud during the marriage. If we go to trial, you will definitely get most of the assets. He won't be able to hold his head up. You just have to sign here. Jada slid a folder toward me. Just as I was about to take the pen, Jada suddenly said, "Wait, why?" I looked at her. "No, it's nothing." Jada didn't look at me. She frowned, her eyes fixed on her computer screen. "I asked my secretary to check the mansion's information in the property register again for your urgent sale procedure. Zara." Jada's voice suddenly became serious. "Come see this." A feeling worse than when I heard Ms. Odessa Jones's name woke up in my heart. I walked over to Jada's computer screen. It was the information of my house's deed of title. "Look at this." Jada pointed to the small print in the notes section. "Your house is mortgaged." "Mortgaged?" I repeated mechanically. "It doesn't make sense. I didn't sign any paper. This house is my parents' money. It's mortgaged." Jada's voice was like a wedge. "And not for a small amount. They mortgaged it to borrow $650,000. $650,000. If $72,000 was a slap, $650,000 was a bullet that hit me directly in the head. "No, it's not possible," I screamed. My calmness that I worked so hard to build completely collapsed. "Jada, $650,000 requires my signature. I'm a co-owner." "Never." "Calm down." Jada grabbed my shoulder and shook me hard. "Listen to me. Look at the date of the mortgage." I squinted and checked the date. 6 months ago. "Exactly 6 months ago," Jada said, her voice full of anger. "Remember, did you sign any strange papers 6 months ago?" 6 months ago. My head was spinning. 6 months ago. At that time, Kellen told me the company needed a large amount of money for an important project. He said it was a golden chance. He brought a thick folder of papers and told me to sign quickly, saying they were internal papers and his boss was waiting. Oh my God. Collapse. I signed. He said it was an internal guarantee paper. He pointed to where to sign. I didn't read. "Jada. Oh, Jada." Jada hit the desk with her fist. The boom sound startled me. "Did that no-good man trick you, or did he fake your signature? Or did he trick you into signing a power of attorney or a mortgage agreement?" "He took $650,000 from my parents' house. I didn't listen to anything else. $72,000 he used to maintain his mistress and this $650,000. Where did the $650,000 go?" "Ultra-secret survey trip to the Hamptons project." Suddenly, I understood everything. He didn't go to check things out. He went to free up that $650,000. He was planning to escape. He was going to leave with $650,000 and his young mistress, leaving me with a foreclosed house and a gigantic debt. The $4,500 meal at Sorrel's table was just the celebration of his successful deal. "Zara." Jada's voice brought me back to reality. Her face was pale, but her eyes were burning. "Listen to me carefully. This is no longer just a divorce. This is no longer a civil case." She grabbed my hand tightly, emphasizing every word. "This is a crime. Your husband is a criminal. Fraud and stealing." I looked at Jada. The tears had dried up. The pain was gone and only a cold void remained. "Yes," I said in an eerily calm voice. "What should I do with a criminal, Jada? What is the procedure for a criminal complaint?" Jada's voice echoed in the quiet office. "Criminal, fraud, penal." Every word was like a hammer blow to my chest. $650,000. The number was so large it felt abstract. It was no longer money. It was an abyss. I must have staggered. Jada quickly held me and sat me down in a chair. "Zara, are you listening to me? You have to calm down. Now is not the time to faint. Calm down." How could I calm down? 6 months ago I remembered it vividly. Kellen came home, his face full of excitement. He talked about a golden chance, an internal investment project the company only offered to executives. He said it was the chance to change our lives, and that I would never have to worry about anything again. He brought a thick folder full of technical words I didn't understand. He flipped through the pages pointing to an X. He said, "Sign quickly. My boss is waiting. It's just an internal guarantee procedure. We have to trust each other as a couple, right? Don't you trust me?" I trusted him. I trusted him as I had for the last 10 years. I signed without reading a word. I signed the power of attorney or the mortgage agreement. I signed the death sentence of my marriage and my assets. How stupid I was. The emotional betrayal hurt. But this financial trickery, this cold calculation to steal using my absolute trust, filled me with disgust. He wasn't just a bad husband. He was a professional con artist. Jada. I looked at her and my voice was dry. $72,000 he used to maintain his mistress. And this $650,000. What was he going to do with this $650,000? Jada looked at me. Her eyes were full of pity, but also of firmness. "You still don't know. He conned you. He used your parents' house, your assets to borrow $650,000. He was preparing his life. He was going to leave with that $650,000 and his mistress, leaving you with a gigantic debt and a house that would be taken by the bank." I felt my heart stop. Sell the house. Now, selling this house wasn't revenge, nor was it even to stop the bleeding of marital assets. It was an order. I had to sell this house to the Atlanta client. I needed the 90% cash they promised. I needed that money not to get rich, but to immediately pay the illegal $650,000 debt to the bank. If I didn't pay, the bank would foreclose, and I, as the co-owner, the person who signed under trickery, would be the first to be responsible. I would lose everything. I would lose the house, my parents' money, and I would be in debt for life. Kellen Thorne. He didn't just want to leave me. He wanted to destroy me. He wanted to bury me alive in that debt and shame. "Zara." Jada grabbed my hand tightly. "Listen to me. This fight has changed. It's no longer just a simple civil divorce case. It's a criminal case. You are no longer just a wife demanding justice, but a victim who has to fight for her own freedom." I left Jada's office as if my feet weren't touching the ground. I don't know how I drove back to the mansion. Everything around me seemed covered in a thick fog. The outside world was still noisy. The cars were still busy, but I was trapped in a glass cage without sound, without emotion. I slumped onto the steps outside the orchid garden, the $30,000 garden. The garden I was once proud of. Now it was the only thing that could save me. Everything suddenly became clear. Cruelly clear. I connected all the dots. 6 months ago he tricked me into signing the mortgage papers and the bank gave out $650,000. He had the money, a gigantic amount, enough to start a new life. He started spending more shamelessly. This business trip was not a sudden trip. It was scheduled. The 15-day ultra-secret land survey trip to the Hamptons was a lie. A carefully prepared lie to give him enough time to free up the rest of the money and disappear. That he took his mistress was not because she was the reason. She was just the prize he gave himself after a successful fraudulent deal. And the $4,500 meal at Sorrel's table. Oh my God, I let out a dry laugh. It wasn't a client entertainment meal, nor an error meal. It was a celebration. Kellen Thorne was celebrating with my money in my house. The fact that he had just conned me out of $650,000. He celebrated his soon escape. He celebrated that I was the fool who didn't know I would soon be buried in a gigantic debt. His contempt, his cruelty went beyond the limits of unfaithfulness. This was calculated wickedness. He didn't just want my money. He wanted to destroy me. He wanted me to never hold my head up, to live forever in debt and shame. I immediately took my phone. My hands no longer trembled. They were cold and firm. I called Curtis, the real estate agent. "Mr. Curtis." My voice was calm. "This is Zara. Cancel all other house showings. Have decided. I am selling it to the Atlanta client. Tell them I accept all their conditions. I want to sign the earnest money contract this weekend. I need the cash. The sooner the better." Curtis seemed surprised by my determination, but he quickly grasped the situation. "Fantastic, ma'am. I'll call those folks immediately. They'll be thrilled to hear this." Hung up the phone. I had no other choice. Had to sell. Selling this house was not for the division of divorce marital assets. It was to save my own life. He wanted to bury me alive, but he didn't know. I was the seed, and my Ellison and Cumby designs would definitely rise from these ashes. I sat in the mansion, now an asset waiting to be sold. I turned off my phone. I didn't want to hear any more threats or false pleases from Kellen. I didn't want to hear his mother's calculated crying. I needed silence. In that silence I asked myself, what is the man who just conned $650,000 and is enjoying his business trip with his mistress doing now? I couldn't see him. But later, when everything came to light, I knew that even what I imagined was nothing compared to the cruelty of the real facts. While I was sitting here struggling with a $650,000 debt, Kellen and Nia were on a 5-star yacht somewhere in the Caribbean. They were living the extravagant and frivolous life he once despised. They drank the most expensive wine, ate the food I never dared to dream of. They spent money like water. They spent my money. The $72,000 he set aside to be a son to Nia's mother. And probably part of the $650,000 was also spent on shopping. Nia transformed from an intern to a queen, dressed in designer clothes with bags that cost thousands of dollars. But all parties come to an end. My phone call, the freezing of the accounts, the cancellation of the platinum card were like throwing a bucket of cold water on their imperial dream. The platinum card, the symbol of Kellen's power, was suddenly rejected when he tried to pay the yacht rental the next day. He was paralyzed. He took out his second and third card, but all the joint accounts were frozen. His anger, the one that showed in his 66 missed calls, was real. He couldn't believe that his docile wife at home dared to cut his lifeline. And the fight began. Not my fight but theirs. I could imagine how Nia, the young woman used to wealth and luxury, would react when her gold mine suddenly ran out. The sweet voice of Boss Kellen surely turned into a sharp scream. "You promised you could take care of everything. You said the world would be mine if I stayed by your side. And now what? The cards don't work. Who's going to pay the hotel bill? You're a con artist." And Kellen, the patriarchal man who always considered himself a king. How could he endure that humiliation? Financially betrayed by his wife and now bitten by his mistress. I imagined him yelling as loud as he yelled at me on the phone. "Shut up. If you hadn't demanded that $2,000 bag, we would have money for a plane ticket. You're a parasite who only knows how to spend money." Their love, built on my betrayal and my money, was more fragile than sea foam. When the money was gone, only hatred and the fact of tearing each other apart remained. The $4,500 party at Sorrel's table was their highlight. And this was the hell they created for themselves. I lived in silence for 2 days. In those 2 days, I organized all the Ellison and Cumby Designs papers, the old blueprints, the incomplete contracts. I cleaned every trophy, every thank you plaque that was gathering dust. I realized that in 10 years I didn't just lose money. I lost myself. I didn't hear anything from Kellen. He was silent. And Mama Delilah was silent too. I assumed they were preparing a bigger storm. On the 3rd day, while I was preparing the papers for the house sale contract this weekend, my phone chimed. I was so tired of the threats or pleases, but this time it wasn't from Kellen. It was a WhatsApp message from an unknown number. The account name was Baby Nia. I frowned, her again. Last time it was a provocative photo in a bikini. And now what? She had found a solution with Kellen and wanted to show off that they were still happy. My first instinct was to block her like last time. I didn't want to get involved with this trash, but something urged me. I opened the message. It wasn't a photo or a provocation. It was just 3 words sent with a trembling voice. "Ms. Zara, save me." I was stunned. Save me. What game was she playing now? I didn't respond. I didn't believe a single tear from her. A person who willingly accepted $72,000 in support for her mother from another woman's husband was capable of anything. A few minutes later, since I didn't respond, an avalanche of messages arrived. This time it was a long paragraph, as if she had written it beforehand and was just waiting to send it. Ma'am, I was wrong. I don't dare ask for your forgiveness. Just save me. That man tricked me. Boss Kellen is not human. He's a demon. As I read, I only laughed. Demon. A few days ago, wasn't the sophisticated Boss Kellen her gold mine who provided her with everything to show off to the world? He ran out of money. That was the next message. You blocked the cards and he doesn't have a dime. He hit me. He locked me in the hotel. He said if I didn't get him money, he would sell me. Ma'am, I'm so scared. Escape. I'm at the airport now. I don't have a dime. I'm using borrowed Wi-Fi to send you messages. I wasn't a psychologist, but I could put together the complete picture. The fight on the yacht ended. Kellen, without a dime, showed his true nature. He was no longer a sophisticated gentleman, but a cornered tyrant, a bully. And Nia realized she had gambled in the wrong place. She didn't love Kellen. She loved his money. When the money ran out, she had to flee. She was fleeing not only from Kellen, but from the chaos she helped create. But why was she messaging me? The last message explained everything. Ma'am, I know you're going to sue him. Have what you need. Have evidence. Evidence that will make that man unable to hold his head up. Can help you. Only ask. Forgive me for the money we received from him. My mother's sin I will pay. Promise. I just want to live in peace. I looked at the phrase. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. She wasn't my friend. She was a rat fleeing a sinking ship, looking for a new ship to cling to, selling her former companion for a low price. She thought she could use me. She didn't know. I also needed a tool just like her. I wrote. It was the first time I replied to her. My voice must have been as cold as ice. What airport are you at now? The answer was instantaneous. I'm still trapped overseas. I just escaped to the airport. I don't care where you are, I wrote. I also don't care if he hit you. It's your problem and his. But I'm interested in the evidence you mentioned. Yes, it's true. They are double contracts, tax evasion papers. He said it was his biggest secret and that's how he got rich. He said if it became known he would go to jail. Tax evasion, double contracts. A strange emotion woke up in my heart. It turned out that the empire he built, the front of the sophisticated and rich director, was built on the foundations of a crime. Monday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, my lawyer's office, address 32, Peachtree Street. Get back to Atlanta however you can. Bring the evidence. We will talk. I will go alone. I hung up without waiting for her reply. I knew she would cling to this as her last lifeline. She would still think I was stupid, that I still loved him and wanted to talk privately. She would come with the last hope of being able to reverse the situation with crocodile tears. She didn't know she was walking straight into her own final judgment. 9 o'clock in the morning. Jada's office today was different. The air was tense and tight like a guitar string. I chose a black suit instead of white. I wanted to wear the color of the end. I was sitting there with Jada beside me. In front of us, instead of an empty chair, was the attorney for the investment fund, Mr. Atticus Hayes. He had a solemn face and piercing eyes. Kellen arrived 5 minutes late. He opened the door, not guided by Jada's secretary, but walking in himself, as if it were still the office of someone he knew. But upon seeing me, seeing Jada, and especially seeing Mr. Hayes, he stopped. His appearance was miserable. His beard was neglected, his hair greasy. His designer suit was wrinkled, and he smelled of fear and sweat. He was thin, and his eyes were bloodshot and sunken. Zara, baby. He tried to put on a pitiful voice. He tried to approach me. Sit down. Jada growled, pointing to the only empty chair in the middle of the room that looked like a seat for the accused. Kellen stopped. He looked at me, looked at Mr. Hayes. He began to realize something was wrong. He pulled the chair over awkwardly and sat down. "Mr. Kellen Thorne, good morning." Jada began to speak. Her voice had no emotion. It was pure lawyer voice. "Today we are here to invite Mr. Kellen Thorne not to talk about 10 years of affection." Jada pressed the remote control and the large screen on the wall turned on. "Let's get straight to the point. The first image, the 30-second video at Sorrel's table, the scene where he kissed Nia." Kellen closed his eyes and gritted his teeth. This is mine." "Next." Jada pressed the remote control. The bikini photo on the yacht with Nia's provocative message. "Silence." Jada cut him off. "Just look at the screen." She moved to the next slide, the bank statement. The words Ms. Odessa Jones, $2,500, were circled in red. A table calculating the total of $72,000. Kellen began to pale. Next, the screen changed to the mortgage contract for the mansion, the number $650,000 enlarged. And next to it, the result of the signature valuation. The signature of Ms. Zara Ellison is concluded to have been inserted into the paper in a non-complete mental state or faked. "It's not nonsense." Kellen began to scream. "You signed it yourself. You." He still tried to lie. I opened my mouth. It was the first time since he entered. My voice was calm, but my eyes were fixed on him. "You said it was an internal guarantee paper, didn't you?" Kellen was speechless. He looked at me as if he had seen a ghost. And finally, Jada pressed the last slide, the folder of double contracts that Nia brought. The difference in amounts, the signatures, the stamps. This time, Kellen didn't scream. He just sat there panting. Sweat was pouring down. He knew there was no way to deny it. At that moment, Mr. Hayes, the attorney for J Capital, opened his mouth. His voice was low and firm. "Mr. Kellen Thorne, I represent the J Capital Investment Fund. We obtained all these papers. We officially report Mr. Kellen Thorne for commercial fraud and stealing of funds. He has deceived us for 5 years." "No, Mr. Hayes. I was deceived. That girl Nia, she seduced me." Kellen turned to me. He tried to crawl out of the chair and kneel. "Zara, save me. Tell Mr. Hayes, save me." 10 years. It's 10 years. I looked at him. The man I once loved was crawling at my feet like a miserable dog. My heart didn't move. There was no pity or satisfaction, just emptiness. "Mr. Kellen," I said. "You don't need to beg me or Mr. Hayes. The person you have to talk to is not us." Kellen was left with a panicked expression. Just then the meeting room door opened. 2 uniformed men and 2 plainclothes men entered. "Mr. Kellen Thorne, good afternoon." One of the plainclothes men, who looked like the commander, said, showing his identification. "We are the Economic Crimes Unit. We received a report for your tax evasion and fraud. Accompany us to headquarters for questioning." Kellen was petrified. He looked at the 2 police officers and then looked at me. The gaze was no longer one of pleading. It was one of hatred. Extreme hatred. But it was too late. 2 cold silver handcuffs closed around his hands. He was led away, passing by me. My 10 years of marriage, my 10 years of youth, my Ellison and Cumby designs that I had given up officially concluded with the dry clack of the handcuffs. 6 months later I heard about his news through Jada. The trial was held behind closed doors, but the result was known to everyone. Kellen Thorne was sentenced to a total of 18 years for the charges of fraud for stealing $650,000 from me, fraud against J Capital, and tax evasion for an especially large amount. 18 years for a life of greed and falsehood. His mother, Mama Delilah, could not overcome the shock of her golden son's conviction. She suffered a stroke and was paralyzed on one side. I heard from old neighbors that she was now bedridden, crying and cursing. But no one cared anymore. That was probably the karma she deserved for defending her son's crimes. Nia, due to her honest confession, the delivery of evidence, and her proactive effort to repair the damage by returning the entire $72,000 that Kellen gave her mother for support, received a suspended sentence for helping and using goods obtained through crime. It is said she disappeared from the city and returned to her hometown to live another life. I no longer felt hatred, nor did I feel satisfaction. I simply felt that everything had returned to its course. You reap what you sow. I was standing in my new office. It wasn't a rental apartment. It was the official office of Ellison and Come-By Designs. It wasn't large, a small loft in an old building, but it was full of sun. The walls were covered with design blueprints. They had been forgotten for 10 years, but my skills hadn't disappeared. They were like a seed, and they were sprouting under the rubble of the marriage. Now that the storm had passed, they began to grow. Jada walked in with 2 mugs of coffee in her hand. What's wrong? Did you just get the landscape design contract for the entire new city across the river? Why are you so serious? I smiled and took the coffee. I was thinking about what kind of trees to use for the central lake. Phalaenopsis orchids or dendrobiums. Jada laughed heartily. Orchids again. But seeing you now makes me feel like this is the Zara Ellison I knew. I looked out the window. The sky was very blue today. People were still busy, but my heart was surprisingly at peace. I sold my $30,000 orchid garden, but I recovered my entire heaven. I didn't need to do any charitable work to prove I was fine. I just had to live well and do my job well. For 10 years as a homemaker, I learned to care for a garden. Now I would use that skill to care for my life and make the lives of other people more beautiful. I took a deep breath. The smell of coffee, paper, and the smell of freedom. My true life had just begun. Did you like the story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect.